Clay, Draymond, from 2015 to now. 6 out of 8 years, having a chance to compete for, a championship.
Out to Clay for 3.
I felt amazing. I should have had like 10. I left some on the board, but whatever. I'm just grateful, man. This is unbelievable.
The NBA playoffs are on ESPN Radio. Tune in tonight for Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics host the Heat, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. Brian Windhorst, guys, is with us now. ESPN NBA insider, of course. Good morning, Brian. We've been debating this a lot of this morning, or at least discussing it. Would you rather have Steph or KD to start your franchise? KD obviously was on the same team. He was the better player, but look at the culture Steph created. Look what you can build around Steph. Who'd you rather have in the very beginning of their careers to build going forward?
Yeah, to me, I'm gonna answer this in a technical way, because I love Steph. I felt like I've been in the Steph defender camp in the last 5 years. I think he's one of the all-time great players, and people press me, is he one of the all-10 greatest? Is he one of the 11 and a half greatest? I don't know. I'm a huge believer in Steph and how he's changed the game. But Durant's 7 foot tall. So if you're asking me, would I rather have one of the greatest players of all time, who's whatever he is, 6'2", 6'3", one of the greatest shooters of all time, who's 7 foot, I'm going to take the 7-footer. And I know that's a technical answer, but that's how I'm breaking the tie.
I'm with you on it, Wendy. I struggle with the question because you ultimately wonder, where, and I'm a firm believer in this, right? Where you get drafted and what coach is in place and what environment is in place matters, right? And the culture that they've been able to build around Steph at Golden State was different than what they had at OKC, in which then KD felt like he needed to leave to go to a Golden State, and then try to recreate that within Brooklyn. So it's almost, you wonder could Steph still be what Steph is right now if you weren't in that situation? But I don't want to, that doesn't minimize the greatness of Steph either, because what he's accomplished is incredible.
Well, there's so many different ways to talk about this, because if you look at Steph, one of the things about Steph is that he has been a shining light on his franchise the entire time, not only on the court, but off the court. He has been nothing but happy and embracing being in Golden State and being inviting. Whereas Durant has, multiple times been unhappy with his franchise and wanted to leave. So again, it's a real simple question, and the reason we talk about it as sports fans is because we all have different opinions on it, and we all maybe want to defend him. But again, from a temperament standpoint, I would take Steph because of what I know I'm not going to have to worry about him wanting to leave. But again, if you're asking me if I need 5 players to win this game, I'm taking the player who's taller, who's better on defense. I'm taking the player who is taller, who can defend. But again, there's so many different factors that you play into it. Durant, he probably should have more MVPs. He probably would have more MVPs if he didn't change teams. So I can't count on that. But I look at, his value, Durant's value in a playoff series is slightly greater than Steph's. It's not like completely greater, but it's slightly greater than his. And so on those little margins, I would take Durant. But let me tell you something. If we were going back and forth on this, guys, and you took Durant first and I had Steph, that's no consolation prize.
Yeah, you're speaking of Curry and the Golden State Warriors and them cleaning up the West and now getting into the finals, Wendy. Should they be favored in these finals no matter who comes out of the East?
They're going to have home court, and that's going to be a factor. And they're going to have a rest advantage, and they're going to be healthier than the team that advances. I think you have to compute that in. I'm interested to see what if the Celtics win tonight. I'm interested to see what the sports books are going to say about this one, because obviously the Warriors have the championship equity and they greater star power, and this series with the Celtics and Heat has been an ugly series. It hasn't featured good basketball, and so I could see people installing the Warriors and just saying, they're the team. But I think this is really going to be a clash, and the clash is going to be one of the greatest ball movement teams in NBA history versus one of the greatest team defenses I've ever seen. You know, people are making fun of the Miami Heat shooting, and rightfully so. Their shooting has been wildly bad. But part of what's happening is that they're running good plays, and the Celtics are covering all of them. Part of what is going on here is that people don't understand how much of a defensive force Robert Williams is. They don't understand how well the Celtics work as a unit. And it's going to be easy to dismiss that because it's easy to mock the Heat, and it's easy to look at the Bucks and say, well, they didn't have Chris Middleton. But they have played a series of teams with big-time offensive talent, Giannis, Durant, Kyrie, and they have handled every single one. So to me, do the Warriors' incredible, unstoppable force meet the impenetrable wall of the Celtics? Who wins that, if that indeed is the matchup?
Wendy, would this be the greatest win of the Golden State Warriors franchise dynasty as it relates to championships? Because you know they got it in 2015, but Kevin Love and Kyrie were not there. 2016, they lose that 3-1 lead that they had. Obviously, Draymond goes out. 17, 18 with KD. 19, they lose to Raptors, but they were hurt. Now looking at all the defensive metrics for the Boston Celtics, and by the way, the defensive player of the year from the guard spot, even though he's hobbled in Marcus Smart. Would this be their greatest accomplishment, potentially?
It's a great question, Jay. It's a great question. I don't have a clean answer for that. I have to really think about it. I mean, my instinct would say, well, the Celtics don't have LeBron James. If they had an in his prime LeBron James, they had to go up against that force with not the greatest team maybe of all time on their side. That would be, we never got to see the rubber match, so to speak, where, they won in 2015 and then LeBron came back in 16. The rubber match to me would be of that potential triumvirate would be, because they had Durant. It just wasn't really a balanced game. That would to me to be, more of an accomplishment. But to your point, that series never happened. They didn't play. They got Durant and they won. They won 4-1. So it would be a terrific championship. I'm not sure that this Celtics team is at the peak of their powers. I think Tatum can get better. I think Brown can get better. They're not super deep. They're not super healthy. We'll see. But I tell you, anybody underselling the Celtics, again, if it is indeed the Celtics, because I don't want to bury the Heat just yet because I respect them as an operation. But anybody who's overlooking the Celtics because they haven't looked as impressive as the Warriors have in the conference finals, you could be making a mistake.
That is the great Brian Windhorst. Ladies and gentlemen, ESPN NBA insider extraordinaire. Thank you, Brian.
All right, Wendy.
Guys, have a great weekend.
Likewise. Guys, is good enough really good enough?